Hey, in today's video, we're going to do an in-depth look at the mutual fund window inside of TSP. Is it something that you should do? Is it something you should stay away from? That's what we're going to talk about coming up next. Hey, this is Mel Stubbs. I'm a financial planner here at Christy Capital Management, and our goal is to bring you good retirement information. And today we're going to be looking at the mutual fund window inside of the TSP. Is it something you should do? Is it something you shouldn't do? So let's jump on over on the computer to the TSP page here where it's going over the mutual fund window. And so how the mutual fund window works, it's basically a separate account inside of your TSP account. So you just have the one TSP account, but inside of the account, it's like there's a brokerage account it's separate, but it's inside of your TSP. So you still just have the one login and that sort of thing. And so you still have the regular funds, you know, the G, F, C, S, and I inside your TSP. You still have the L funds. The mutual fund window is something that is different. So how does it work? Eligibility. For starters, you have to put in at least $10,000 or more. And you can only do up to 25% of your balance. So you have to have at least a $40,000 TSP balance to do this. The key thing here is you may not invest more than 25% of your total balance. So this is a new feature. It does give you more options, but for 75% of your money, you don't get more options. You know, the regular TSP is what you have. So this is new. It does fill a need, but you cannot do it with your entire account. There are over 5,000 funds that you can pick from. So it's a huge selection. So that part of it is good. They have actively managed funds, they've got passively managed funds, a huge number of it. And so you can be the judge whether 5,000 options, is that a great thing or is that too many? It's not a great thing. But let's get to the fees. So there are additional fees for using the mutual fund window. And so if you come down here, there is a $55 annual administration fee, and there's a $95 annual maintenance fee. So as soon as you move money into the mutual fund window, you'll be charged $150, and that will be an annual fee. And this is something that is not charged for people that don't use it. There's also a $28.75 per trade fee. So as you buy a mutual fund, $28.75. If you sell a mutual fund, $28.75. Let's say you pick out 3 or 4 that you want. There's a trade fee for each time that you are either buying or selling. Now, the TSP has always been known for being low cost. The fees have recently gone up in the last few years, but it's still a low cost option. The mutual fund window is not a low cost option. In the marketplace right now, most trade fees are less than $28.75, so they're on the upper end here as far as cost. The other thing you really need to look at here is the other fees and expenses specific to the mutual fund you choose. Now you need to review each fund's prospectus. So when you go look for mutual funds, a huge number of them, one of the things you need to look for are what are the expenses of the mutual funds. Some funds will have higher expenses, some funds will have lower expenses. So if we jump over to another page on the TSP, just talking about the new changes, new features of the TSP, the mutual fund window is one of those. You'll also notice that all TSP participants need to set up a new login for the new My Account. So even if you've never logged in before, they're making you log in now because most of the things that you do now with the TSP are all online. There's no more paper copies that you print out and you turn in. Everything is online. So TSP has also put out this publication going into more detail on the mutual fund window. And if you come down with how it works, you have to do a fund transfer from your regular TSP account into the mutual fund window. And so to be able to invest, you have to move the money over. Once it's there, you get to pick from the 5,000 choices. Now let's say that you need to take a TSP loan or take a withdrawal. You now have to do another fund transfer, move the money out of the mutual fund window back into the TSP to be able to do transactions that way. Also, if you want to invest in the mutual fund window, you can't do it directly from your paycheck. You have to do a fund transfer into the mutual fund window, then allocate it. And so you can't really be systematized in putting money into the mutual fund window. So why would you do it? What are the pros of using the mutual fund window? Well, the first one is that if you want to gain further diversification, there are limitations inside the TSP fund. You have the C fund that's similar to the S&P 500. You have the S fund, which is like the next 1,500 biggest companies. And you have the international fund, which is mainly, Europe, Australia, Asia. There are some areas that are left out of the regular TSP funds. If you want to get more specific, by getting some micro-cap funds, maybe some super small companies, get some specific funds that deal with an area of the market that you don't have access to, then the mutual fund window gives you that option. Another pro of using the mutual fund window is that there are actively managed funds available in the mutual fund window. First, let's define what an actively managed fund is, as opposed to a passively managed fund. Actively managed funds try to beat the market by doing research and actively trading the account by buying and selling stocks. Passively managed just buy an index and hold those stocks without trying to buy or sell. Currently the TSP funds are passively managed. The C fund is set up to mimic the S&P 500. The fund managers aren't doing research. They're not trying to buy certain companies or sell certain companies to beat the market. What's in the C fund is in the C fund, and it's not actively managed. The C fund, the S fund, the I fund, really the F fund, they're all run that way. But the mutual fund window gives you access to actively managed funds. This is where the fund managers are doing research and they're actively making trades and actively trying to buy more of certain companies and less of certain companies in order to try to beat the market. Now, all of this research and extra trades cost more, and the expenses associated with actively managed funds are much higher than passively managed funds. Now fees alone are not a bad thing, but what are you getting for the fees? I found an article on FINRA.org that said in any given year, most actively managed funds do not beat the market. In fact, studies show that very few actively managed funds provide stronger than benchmark returns over long periods of time, including those with impressive short-term performance records. So the purpose of passively managed funds is to replicate the performance of their benchmark. They're not trying to outperform the S&P 500. They're just trying to match the S&P 500, so they buy the exact stocks in the exact proportions of the S&P 500. Actively managed funds are trying to beat the market. But in any given year, they need to beat the market by the increased fee plus something. So they need to earn what the market earns. They need to earn something additional to replace the fee they're charging. And then you need to earn something even more than that to make it worth doing. So the pro to the mutual fund window is that you have access to actively managed funds. Now you'll need to determine whether an actively managed fund is actually a pro for you or not. You may decide that you don't want one. But with the old TSP and the 5 fund choices, you don't have this option. Now let's go over some of the cons of using the mutual fund window. First, you can't directly invest straight from your paycheck to the mutual fund window. It first has to go into the regular 5 funds or a life cycle fund first, and then on regular intervals, you have to log in and manually send money to the mutual fund window. Each time you do that, there's going to be a fee. And what we find that with human nature is when you have to start manually doing something, it either doesn't get done or it doesn't get done well. Another con is that whenever you need money out, whether it's through a TSP loan or through taking a distribution, you'll have to manually go in and transfer the money out of the mutual fund window using a fund transfer. It's just an additional cumbersome manual thing that you have to do. You can only access your TSP from the regular section of the TSP and not from the mutual fund window. Another con is the additional fees. The TSP has always been a low fee place to put your money. But between the 2 different annual fees and the per transaction, per trade fee, and then the new fees involved of the mutual funds themselves, this is no longer going to be the low fee option. Now, another thing that will count as a con for some people, but it might actually be a pro for others, is that there are 5,000 mutual funds to choose from. The TSP has always been a low fee place to invest, but it's also had simple choices. There are 5 individual funds. People don't have to do a whole lot of research to figure out what the 5 different funds are, and so they can make an allocation pretty easily. But when you have over 5,000 mutual funds to sift through and figure out if they're suitable for you and figure out which ones are better than others, well, that's going to take a lot of work. If you want to nerd out and do a whole lot of research, then this is a great option for you. But most of the people that we come in contact with, they don't want to do that. They either don't know how to do it or they just don't want to. And so having 5,000 choices does not come across as helpful. So who's the mutual fund good for? Somebody that's really into research and can do the proper due diligence on the mutual fund window options. Another person this is good for is somebody that's wanting specific funds with specific exposures to certain places in the market that you just can't get within the TSP. That's who I think would benefit from using the mutual fund window. Now remember, you can only put 25% of your TSP account into the mutual fund window, so depending on how large your TSP balance is, this could be a lot of extra work and research and transactions and fees for just 25% of your account. So who is the mutual fund window probably not a good fit for? Someone who is really focused on fees and wants the lowest fees. Or someone that wants simplicity in their choices of investments. Someone that doesn't want to do a whole lot of research. Someone who wants to contribute money directly to the fund of their choice and not have to go back in and do a fund transfer. You can set your allocation and forget it, because you can contribute it where you eventually want it to go and stay. Now, we've made several videos in the past about some drawbacks of the TSP and some potential pitfalls of the TSP. But does the mutual fund window actually fix these drawbacks? Well, not really. It really only fixes one of the drawbacks. There's always been a limited investment selection, and the mutual fund window does give you more options. Granted, you can only get more options for 25% of the account. I guess that means that 75% of your account still has limited choices. But there are certain things that the changes to the TSP, they didn't fix. You still don't have access to a financial planner, a professional that can help you plan for retirement, and make sure that you're saving enough. Make sure that you have enough. Make sure that you understand what your pension is going to be, what your Social Security is going to be, so that you can see whether retirement will work out with your current lifestyle. TSP didn't fix that. You have to seek out outside help for that. They also didn't do anything to allow you to do tax planning. Most of the people we talk to are very much traditional TSP heavy, meaning they have a whole bunch of traditional TSP and they don't have much of Roth TSP. If you've watched any of our videos on tax planning, you know the importance of doing the math to figure out if it's worth it for you to shift money from traditional to Roth and pay some of the taxes this year, do it again next year, and the next year to slowly but surely get the money moved over to Roth, paying off the taxes at today's rate. The TSP doesn't give you that option. You cannot do Roth conversions inside of the TSP. This is huge. So why do I say it's huge? If you're someone that's worried about taxes, someone that thinks taxes may go up in the future, if you're somebody that thinks you'd rather go ahead and pay taxes on your $500,000 TSP balance, now, instead of waiting 20 years when it's worth $1.5 million, if this sounds like you, then this is the problem. The TSP doesn't let you fix it. Now, most people's money is all traditional. Some people have a little bit of Roth, but not much. The TSP does let you contribute to Roth, but they don't let you convert to Roth. And so if taxes go up, or if your traditional balance goes up, then you're going to have to pay more taxes. We help clients figure out their lifetime taxes. Figure out how much taxes in my lifetime do I expect to pay if I keep going with everything traditional. And then let's look at a side-by-side comparison if I shift money periodically year by year to Roth. What are the estimated taxes then? This is a huge piece that the TSP still didn't fix. Now, hopefully this information on the TSP Mutual Fund Window has been helpful. If you need help managing your TSP, managing your finances for retirement, and you've got $400,000 or more, please reach out to Christy Capital Management. Go to christycapital.com. Click Talk to an Advisor. Give us a call, the number on your screen. Make sure you leave us a message so that we can call you back. Do you want to receive good, pertinent retirement information? Then subscribe here on YouTube. Also, like us on Facebook. Check out Christy Capital Management's Facebook page. My name is Mel Stubbs. I'll see you on the next video. We need to do the proper disclaimers. The purpose of this video is not to give specific tax advice or investment advice. We're going over general principles and ideas that can be used, and if used correctly, can save and avoid taxes. You're going to want to work with someone personally who knows your situation personally. So seek out advice from an independent financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I hope you enjoyed the video.